So first, I would like to send a huge thank you to Rick, Amina, and the rest of the people on the committee who extended this opportunity to me. And I would also like to thank Lisa for her role in helping me get here in an infinite number of ways. And most importantly, I would like to extend a huge congratulations to my fellow graduates, including those who are celebrating this ceremony, those who just celebrated in Black graduation, future Latino graduates, and all who will celebrate honor before May 14. The words "we made it" carry very different weight for people in this room. Some are the first in their family to graduate from college. Some immigrated to this country to be in this very place. Some worked full-time jobs and hours on end to afford this opportunity, and for almost all of us, we have struggled with our identities and acceptance of selves as we have navigated a world that challenges our existence at every corner. I applaud the effort that we have all made that brings us to this point. For the most part, we have been raised to believe we live in a dichotomous world. Young or old, rich or poor, black or white, male or female, straight or gay, maybe bi, even that still means two. I grew up believing that I was different, because I wasn't ready to fit into a category, because one or the other seemed so extreme, because I was not allowed to live in a world in between. Even worse, I was taught I was not allowed to walk along the spectrums of our world as I explored what it means to be Taylor Sprague. And then I came to George Mason, socialized into this binary view of the world. I thought that I had it all mapped out. I would come here, I would make my name, and everything through my green gold colored lenses looked perfect to me. I was where I was meant to be, and I was who I was meant to be, and I was doing everything right. My sophomore year, that all changed. I attended a social justice dinner dialogue held by my now long-term mentor, Aaron Hood. He's since left George Mason, and for those who did not have the opportunity to cross his path, I apologize. For me, he's simply one of those people who enters your life and leaves a forever kind of impact. Anyway, he handed out identity rules to the group and told us to fill them out. When I looked down, I saw a plethora of identities I had yet to name. Race, ethnicity, nationality, I don't know what the difference is. Ability, what does that mean? Religion, I don't even know at this point. It was when I reached the sexual orientation category that my heart sank. At the time, I'm not sure I knew why. I was suddenly being asked this question, one that I just expected to have an answer to because it was an unspoken truth. If I remember correctly, I wrote straight that night. I wrote something different in that box every time I filled it out. Straight was alive, but everything else felt so wrong. I didn't have a label. I didn't even consider the fact that I was allowed to question gender. I simply allowed myself to stare at the box and question how I could contort myself enough to fit inside. I kept much of my respiration and drained to myself. I felt ashamed, I felt scared, and I felt different. Here and there, I shared some of my thoughts with mentors and friends, but for the most part, I allowed my thoughts to sit in silence and questioning. I read. I accidentally placed my hand over the sexual orientation category every time I filled out that box. I engaged with the LGBTQ office under the disguise of an ally for a long time. To Rick, Amina, and David, I don't know that you will understand how truly important you've been to me. And I know I'm likely not the only one. We navigate our lives trying to understand our identities and figure out what it all means. We are told we are wrong for being in between and that we must have a name for ourselves. In an even more complicated way, we navigate all of our identities at once. We often police parts of ourselves to make room for others, and we make conscious efforts to hide our queer identities when it suddenly feels unsafe, if we have the privilege of doing so. And if we are lucky, as I know so many in this room have been, we create community and family along this journey that validate and reinforce our lives. We find mentors who support and challenge us, friends who love us unconditionally, and confidants who hold our hearts with care. It would be a lie to say Mason has consistently been a safe place for LGBTQ students, faculty, and staff. Facing microaggressions in class discussions, having to change paths to avoid the preacher because we just can't today, having one of our primary schools named after a man who spent his time in public service challenging our very existence, walking up 3 flights of stairs in the Johnson Center 3 times a day because the bathroom isn't available, it's constant. Coming out time and time again to ensure our voice is heard, that our community is represented, and that our existence is named in a room where it can be so often be left invisible. We've come so far in our society. In the past few years, we've seen marriage equality across the nation, media representation of trans identities, UN resolutions condemning discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity, denouncing of conversion therapy from President Obama, worldwide representation of LGBTQ community, and many, many more. These past few years have been full of victories, and still we have so far to go. As I prepare to move to North Carolina in a little over 2 months to begin my grad program, I am deeply reminded that there's so much to do. That this movement is not over. That it will not be over until all under the LGBTQ umbrella are liberated. As long as hashtag Black Lives Matter, hashtag Say Their Name, hashtag Yes All Women, hashtag Bring Back Our Girls are still trending, we must continue to fight as a community, as allies, and as humans. Lila Watson once said, "If you've come here to help me, you're wasting your time. But if you've come because your liberation is bound up with mine, then let us work together." As a queer, white, English-speaking, able-bodied U.S. citizen from New Jersey, I have many privileges that afford me access in this world. must remember that my pain and shame and frustration come from but one part of me, and that I can use my frustration in conjunction with my privilege to combat systems of oppression that run far beyond my lived experiences. We must all remember that we bring all of ourselves to this battle, and that we are no more or no less any part of our identities, but instead one beautiful complex whole that is powerful beyond measure. And we must forgive one another and ourselves when that empowerment is lost. This year I chose forgiveness. I forgave my grade school peers, I forgave my family, and most importantly, I forgave myself. I allowed myself to question the black and white dichotomies I saw all around me and clawed at the rainbows beneath them. I sought to expose the truth of humanity. I allowed myself to fall in love with the amazing person my heart sought out and found unprecedented happiness. I began to use my voice in the service of my vision, as Audre Lorde would say. To believe we live in a dichotomous world is to minimize the complexities of humankind. We have written millions of novels about unknown lands, built thousands of cities from the ground up, flown humans clear across the sky, created the internet, and put all of the world's answers in the palm of our hands. We have connected individuals and communities in ways that once seemed impossible. And yet to think we still believe we exist in a binary is simply insulting. We are the catalyst of change, progress, and growth. We are powerful beyond measure, and there's no way that a binary could ever contain that. Thank you.